as an equity, diversity and inclusivity outreach initiative, which which may seem in some ways maybe similar to some things that we might do as an intervention, for a more research branch of our work. However, the reason why we think of this in a different way is because, we were reflecting on the ESS Management Committee in particular. We're reflecting on wanting to, more directly build in and think more complexly about diversity in our gender diversity initiative, especially in, the wake of the summer of 2020 with the, resurgence of the Black liberation movement. And so we wanted to incorporate some kind of equity, diversity, and inclusivity initiative. And there was a good model we had from the States of quantitative training for underrepresented groups, which is a decades-long program run by the National Science Foundation. But when we're talking about intersectional diversity in engineering and what we're thinking about here, for those of you who are familiar with Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw and her work, who really, she's the Black feminist scholar who first discussed intersectionality and used as an example gender diversity initiatives for how people with relative power within and privilege within the axis that the initiative is trying to address, so gender diversity, for example, tend to benefit the most from those programs. So showing that white women, her data showed that white women versus Black women were benefiting more from gender diversity initiatives. And so we wanted to proactively try to address that in the context of our own larger gender diversity initiative. And thus, Quant-TIDE was born. So I want to first say the ESS Management Committee, said what we need is a steering committee, and indeed we did. So I want to give a huge shout out and thanks to these amazing people who represent a diversity of disciplines and career stages, as well as their own lived experience. And we met over 3 meetings over the course of 2021 and helped to design the program. I further want to recognize the ESS Management Committee at the time, who gave extensive feedback, coming back from the steering committee meetings, and just all together it was the time and thought and enthusiasm and creativity was greatly appreciated. But now, so once we had our go, we developed a team. So in particular, Ting is a graduate student, part of ESS, and also a participant in Quant-TIDE. And so we tried to build in, sort of that perspective from the beginning. And also Rizk Elmadbak is a staff member, but he also is a community organizer of equity, diversity, and inclusivity kind of workshops, but also, resources and supports in the among queer people of color in Toronto. And really, in particular, Rizk crafted our code of conduct, which I feel was particularly beautiful and really appreciated by many people. Yes, so we had envisioned Quant-TIDE through in the original vision as being a multidisciplinary opportunity. And so it was a week-long program, 5 days, and particularly it was a research training initiative to provide advanced research training. Why quantitative work? Just because that's where our strengths are in particular. We have other strengths as well, but this is one of them. So we wanted to build on the strengths we had and provide those opportunities to other people. And so Quant-TIDE was for women and gender minorities with intersectional identities that are marginalized in Canadian STEM. We had 7 engineering PhD students, 8 social science PhD students. On the first 3 days, each day was a standalone workshop on an advanced statistical or quantitative technique by, world-renowned speakers who also themselves, represented various communities that were among the students. So on day one, Dr. Mohammed Abdul Magid from the University of British Columbia gave a workshop on deep learning, which was very attractive to everybody. People were really wanted that content, and apparently it was just a very exciting and well-presented workshop. On day two, Dr. Sabrina Tai from Brock University gave a full-day workshop on multi-level modeling, which is a very an extensively, it's a very widely applicable and useful form of linear modeling, for which you get a lot of bang for your buck, I would say, by learning it. And then on the third day, Dr. Joanne Chung from the University of Toronto gave the structural equation modeling workshop, and it in particular, many students emphasized, was very participatory and inclusive, and was just a really, apparently moving experience for many people. So some of the feedback that we got, one of the students provided us with a testimonial where they said, as someone who has always struggled with statistics, I was nervous about Quant-TIDE. However, the guest speakers were incredible. They were engaging and broke down each topic into digestible components that helped with learning. I would highly recommend Quant-TIDE to other students. On days 4 and 5 were our research accelerator. So a team from the Office of the Vice President, Research and Innovation Office, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Office, specifically supported by Dr. Nicole Knickie, who's here today, led an incredible grant writing workshop that was useful. It was geared towards PhD students who would become professors, and sort of what could they learn that would put them ahead. And it was just really actually a very good workshop. And then in the afternoon of that day, all the students got to have one-on-one meetings with the workshop presenters who presented on the first 3 days to talk about, ask more specific questions about their data context and how it related to the analyses that were being taught. And on the 5th day, we had Kayla Souza from iCube at the Institute of Management and Innovation at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, give an also awesome workshop on pitch presentations and how to pitch research through, a talk essentially to potential funders, and talked about various contexts when that occurs. And then we closed off the afternoon and Quant-TIDE as a whole with students using a template that was provided to give pitch presentations about how the content they learned, they might, combine it into a research project. So some of the feedback we had was, thank you for creating Quant-TIDE for us. You made the experience enjoyable and wonderful. I felt supported and cared for during that week. An odd thing to say about a statistics academic skills training workshop, but it is true, and it made all the difference. Another student said, Quant-TIDE was excellent. The organizers were supportive, empathetic, and kind while creating a professional and psychologically safe place for us to learn new skills. The instructors were passionate and encouraging, and everyone who participated and were involved created a warm and supportive environment. I would highly recommend anyone to take part in Quant-TIDE. So what were some of the student takeaways? I mean, obviously the real point of Quant-TIDE was this advanced statistical knowledge, just to set people up with, things that they might seek out at a conference, workshop, or something like that. But also provided this sort of unique and really special opportunity to get grant writing and pitch presentation skills from people who really have a lot of expertise in that area. Also because we wanted to, both from the steering committee, recommendations and engineering faculty in particular, who were, mentioning that that students would have to do things outside of their work hours a little bit more in engineering, that might be more of a rigid kind of separation, but also because we wanted to, make Quant-TIDE a prestigious thing, an award of sorts. We provided $500 honoraria, and we also provided fancy, nice physical certificates of completion. So the last thing to share with you was a final testimonial where students said, this was an amazing opportunity for me to have exposure to different quantitative methods that I can apply to my research. I was impressed by the engagement of all the instructors. I could tell they took time crafting the materials and were very open to engaging our questions and supporting us through the hands-on activities. I really hope there will be a Quant-TIDE in the future. So a lot of students were really into the idea of having a similar, they all seem to want another Quant-TIDE. but they also thought it would be really cool to do something like Quant-TIDE, which would be qualitative methods, which would not be my expertise, but we have many people here who maybe would be enticed to take it on. So thank you so much. Thank you to the Engendering Success in STEM Consortium for just being excited about this idea and supporting it in so many ways, both with thought and of course with resources. Thank you to SSHRC for funding us all, and also to the University of Toronto, the Office of the VPRI, EDI, Dr. Nicole Kanicki, as well as iCube and UTM. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Liz. What an awesome program. And it's so great to sort of see it come full circle from when it was first an idea that that Liz pitched at a management committee meeting. Given that we, had excess travel funds from our budget that weren't getting used due to the pandemic, and what a great use of those funds. So thank you so much for spearheading that. Big round of applause to you for making that happen.